On August 15, 1969, hippies and musicians alike converged on a small town in upstate New York for a festival called Woodstock. Bill Ware has more.
It was the most wonderful failure in entertainment history. Horrible weather, too many people, too little organization.
Helen Savage, please call your father at the Motel Glory.
If not for the hit documentary and soundtrack, Woodstock would have lost millions. But in the middle of an official state disaster area and an era of violent upheaval, there was peace and love and mind-blowing music.
I am yours, you are mine.
That was the second time you guys had ever played?
Second time.
You make it hard.
The thing that amazed me was that I think that's the only time there's that many people in one place where people didn't hurt each other.
It may not have been the big sociological event we had hoped. It may have just been a kind of a concert where the performers weren't really that good, but man, that was a hell of an audience.
But plenty who were in that audience disagree. Patrick Colucci fell in love with his wife there and decided to drop out of the seminary.
It was the greatest event of my life. It changed me dramatically. It made me feel that I belonged for the first time.
Stephen Buchwald went from flower child to florist, one of the biggest in the country.
I was tortured about what to do for a living, and I said, flowers, yeah, I could do that with a clear conscience.
Stage was there?
Stage is right down there.
And Duke Devlin came to Woodstock from Texas and never left.
But I like to think that some of these green movements that are popping up today, they're trying to make a better world. I think they're little seeds of Woodstock that are starting to grow.
Things change as you grow up. But I think a lot of those values did hang in there. What would it be like if it hadn't happened? Interesting question.
The kind of question that's best contemplated with a little help from your friends. Bill Weir, ABC News, Bethel Woods, New York.
And now, with more about Woodstock, 40 years later, is the festival's official photographer, Henry Diltz. Good morning, Henry. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Meg. Thank you very much.
So how did you get involved with the festival?
Well, I got a call from my old pal Chip Monk, who was doing the staging and the lighting, and he said, we need you out here, and he had the Michael Lang, the producer, call me, and they sent me a ticket. And I went out 2 weeks early and photographed and documented all the building of the stage and setting up the grounds and all.
Well, so every article I've ever read about Woodstock, people say they had no idea what to expect. Did you have any idea what you were getting into?
Well, I knew it was going to be a big music festival. You know, I was prepared for that. Nobody knew the scope of, you know, how it was going to be, and that it was going to be a sort of a free concert, you know, and such a lifestyle and spirited event. You know, nobody knew that. But my job was to be on stage and photograph all the musicians. And I did that.
Let's talk about some of your photos. And this is the first one we're going to show is of your friend, the producer Michael Lang, and stage manager Chip Monk.
Right.
When was this taken?
That was taken, I would say, about a week before the festival. Of course, you know, famously they had to switch locations just a few weeks before the festival. So they were working like crazy to build the stage and get all the new grounds all set up. And so that picture is Chip and Michael surveying the stage that's being built.
The next photo is a familiar image, Jimi Hendrix. Was this taken during his performance?
It was. It was Monday morning when he went on, just at the crack of dawn, and he could be playing the Star Spangled Banner there, which really took everybody by surprise. It was such an amazing moment when he played that, you know.
Well, what was it like for you? I mean, let's talk about your access to all of these amazing performers.
Well, I was working for the producer, so I had an all-access badge, you know, and I could go anywhere I wanted, so I essentially had the best seat in the house, I think, sitting right on stage or standing right in front of the stage.
Henry, were you in awe at the time, or were you just focused on your work?
A little bit of both, you know. You had to be in awe of that huge sea of faces. I mean, I've never seen a crowd that big before. But as far as photographing, I mean, you know, they were performers on stage, something I was used to.
Well, now, as we look at the next picture, it's of Janis Joplin. I want to ask you about the crowd, because you hear so much about it, and everybody talked about how peaceful it was and how there were strangers sleeping next to each other with no regard for personal safety. What did you think looking out into the crowd?
Well, you know, everybody looked pretty happy, except that when it rained, but they still stayed happy. You know, that was the amazing part of it, that all those people could be together in that field for 3 days, and you know, and all have the rain and the, you know, not enough food and not enough sleep, but still get along and still have a good time. I mean, it seemed like our generation had finally proved, you know, the point of peace and love, you know, and brotherhood.
Yeah, it looked a little miserable at times, that's for sure. Let's take a look at your next picture, and this one is of Richie Havens performing. Right. And tell me a little bit about that, because there's that crowd of people. Yeah, he was he opened the show, and I was backstage, and I thought I might get a picture showing you know, the whole crowd in front of the performer. And Richie Havens was great. He was a guy that I'd known earlier in the folk days. And of course, he made up that song "Freedom" right there, which was set the tone kind of for the whole festival. And what did you take away from Woodstock? Well, you know, there was the feeling that there were so many of us, you know, because you know, we were peace and love hippies. I was, you know, still am. But is there one memory that stays with you? Well, I think it was Jimi Hendrix really playing the Star Spangled Banner. It was such a singular moment when he went into that song. It was so unexpected, you know. And then, but I think everybody felt, oh yeah, I mean, there's our national anthem. That's our song too. All right. You know, Henry Diltz, thank you so much for being here this morning and sharing your memories of Woodstock. Thank you. Bye bye. Goodbye. That's all the time we have for this edition of Now You Know. I'm Meg Oliver in New York.